Picture this for a second. You're an intelligence analyst, and you've just been handed a highly classified dossier. But the pages inside, they aren't detailing enemy troop movements or stolen launch codes. No, they detail something way more intimate, and honestly, a lot more unsettling. They map out the absolute vulnerability of your very own mind. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open the case file on the architecture of deception, and we're looking exactly at why the human mind is so incredibly easy to fool.
Seriously, I want you to ask yourself a question right now. Why do you think you can't be conned? I mean, most of us walk around wrapped in this really comfortable illusion of invulnerability, right? We think, I'm way too smart, I'm too logical, I've got too much life experience to ever fall for a scam. But here's the catch. That mindset is exactly what makes you the perfect target. The cognitive errors that scammers exploit, they aren't signs of low intelligence at all. They're actually the fundamental operating system of the human brain. Feeling like you're just too smart to be scammed is the exact blind spot that manipulators are looking for.
Section 1. Anatomy of Deception. The basic framework. To really grasp how psychological operations hack into the mind, we have to realize that at its absolute core, all deception comes down to just two basic moves: concealment and simulation. Simply put, you hide the real and you show the false. See, our brains have limited cognitive resources in memory. We literally cannot deeply process every single piece of data flying at us. And manipulators, they exploit this perfectly by controlling where we focus our attention. They use simulations, fake realities, to draw your eyes exactly where they want them, while using concealment to hide the actual truth right in your cognitive blind spot. And these mechanisms, they operate on a massive systemic level. Different forms of power, whether that's physical, resource-based, or emotional power, get weaponized to produce influence. Overt forces like strict rules and direct persuasion are perfectly balanced against covert forces like environmental magnetism. Manipulators are essentially using these exact vectors to completely bypass your deep logical reasoning. They aren't asking you to think, they're forcing you into automatic, unthinking compliance. Section 2. The 7 traps of our brain. Okay, to truly understand how these methods of influence work, we've got to map out the specific vulnerabilities hardwired into our heads. We're talking about scarcity, cognitive dissonance, confirmation bias, the halo effect, hypergamy, time pressure, and projection. Now listen, I want you to completely stop thinking of these as signs of stupidity. They're not. They are actually evolutionary shortcuts. They're rules of thumb our brains use to make super fast decisions, so we don't get paralyzed by overthinking. But put these hardwired bugs into the hands of a deceiver, they literally become the keys to the kingdom. Let's break a couple of these down. Scarcity and time pressure, those are the brain's ultimate panic buttons. Think about a limited time offer flashing on your screen, or a sudden, totally fabricated emergency, like a frantic text from an unknown number claiming your kid is stranded and needs cash right now. These tactics artificially skyrocket your stress levels, and when your brain is stressed by time and scarcity, it completely shuts down your high-level critical thinking and forces a rushed, automatic, and honestly, usually disastrous response. Then we have cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias. Cognitive dissonance is basically what happens when your brain literally covers its ears because the facts are screaming danger, but you just do not want to admit that you've been played. To resolve that really uncomfortable feeling, you lean hard into confirmation bias. You start desperately seeking out any tiny excuse, any random piece of information to justify the terrible decision you just made. You double down, rather than just pulling out. Next up are the halo effect and hypergamy. The halo effect is this wild cognitive distortion where we subconsciously assume that because someone has a gorgeous face or a perfectly curated online profile, they must also have a good, honest heart. Hypergamy, on the other hand, is the status-obsessed desire to associate or marry upwards into wealth and power. Scammers know this. They use beautiful AI deepfakes and the illusion of extreme wealth to completely blind their targets. Section 3. Methods of hacking consciousness. So, knowing the theory is one thing, but how are these traps actually weaponized against us every single day? Well, it all starts with this deeply chilling principle from military intelligence. All deception takes place in the mind of the perceiver. Think about that. The absolute best deceivers in the world don't force you to believe a lie. That actually takes way too much effort. Instead, they plant a seed, they exploit your existing biases, and they manipulate you into effortlessly constructing the lie yourself. You end up doing the heavy lifting for them. One of the absolute most effective ways they pull this off is through mirroring and active listening. It's basically a psychological chameleon trick.
The manipulator acts as a flawless reflection of your deepest fears, your hopes, and your unresolved problems. By validating every single complaint you have and actively echoing your exact emotions back at you, they manufacture this artificial, instant trust. It makes you feel incredibly understood, which drops your natural defenses down to absolute zero. Section 4. Romantic scams and selling illusions. These high-level psychological warfare tactics, they're executed every single day on totally ordinary people just sitting in their living rooms. Scammers are selling the ultimate illusion of a perfect romantic future in exchange for total financial ruin. And just consider this staggering statistic for a second: 53%. If you think romantic scams only target desperate or naive women, you are entirely wrong. 53% of victims who report dating fraud are actually men. Scammers ruthlessly adapt. They frequently steal female identities, using stolen photos and voice deepfakes to exploit male victims just as mercilessly.
The anatomy of these cons is just brutally methodical. Step 1. They seal faces and construct a completely fake persona using AI and stolen social media histories. Step 2. They build intense emotional dependency. They text constantly, they match your daily pace, and they embed themselves as the center of your routine. And then, step 3, the extraction. A sudden crisis hits or some can't-miss crypto investment opportunity pops up, they drain your accounts dry, and then comes the block, where they vanish forever into the digital ether. Now, this entire process is heavily fueled by a phenomenon known as network intimacy. Because we're sitting safely in our own homes, interacting through our own personal phones or laptops, we feel this incredible, totally false sense of security. This illusion of safety is exactly what leads people to share their most intimate secrets, send compromising photos, and transfer absolutely massive sums of money to individuals they have quite literally never met in physical space.
The infamous fraudster Anna Delvey actually summarized this perfectly when she was talking about her own victims. She noted that they were often people trying to gain access to wealth themselves, calling it a gold digger in reverse. It's a harsh truth, but con artists deliberately weaponize their victims' own greed, vanity, and hypergamy against them. The target gets so blinded by the desire for easy wealth or extreme status that they practically hand over everything voluntarily. Section 5. Our Shadow: Why We Are Vulnerable. Have you ever wondered why our society is so deeply obsessed with movies and documentaries about scammers instead of just purely condemning them? It actually starts with our biology. Our brains are equipped with these things called mirror neurons, which are an evolutionary trait designed for empathy. When we watch a bold, audacious criminal on a screen, those neurons literally force us to physically and emotionally connect with their actions. You might get a quickened pulse or sweaty palms when they're close to getting caught. Biologically speaking, we are hardwired to experience their thrill. But honestly, it goes a lot deeper than just biology. It brings us to the psychological concepts of projection and the shadow self. When we watch these scammers operate, we are essentially staring straight into a dark mirror. We project our own repressed desires onto them. Think about it. While society forces all of us to follow the rules and work incredibly hard for our money, a secret, shadow part of us secretly admires the scammer for breaking those rules and taking the ultimate shortcut that we wish we could take ourselves. And hey, if you don't think you have a dark side, consider this. Research proves that the average person tells 1.65 lies every single day. We all have the capacity for deception living right inside of us. It's just a fundamental human trait. We all manipulate, we all conceal, and we all simulate to some degree, simply just to navigate modern society. If you need even more proof of our human vulnerability to darkness, just remember the infamous Milgram shock experiments from 1963, which, by the way, were actually replicated with very similar results as recently as 2017. The data is crystal clear. Given the right conditions, the right authority figure, and the promise of impunity, ordinary, everyday people are highly capable of extreme cruelty and profound greed. It is literally in our coding. So, when faced with this internal capacity for manipulation, psychology tells us we really only have 3 defense mechanisms. Number 1, you can deny your dark side, which usually just ends up exploding later as toxic passive aggression. Number 2, you can completely identify with it and become a criminal yourself. Or, number 3, the healthiest path, you can safely integrate it. By acknowledging and integrating your own inner manipulator, you develop the real-world street smarts and the firm boundaries required to actually protect yourself and survive out there. We're going to close the file for today, but the reality is this investigation never truly ends. We've looked at the architecture of deception, from high-level military tactics all the way to digital romance scams, and we've explored the deep psychological shadows that make every single one of us vulnerable. So I'm going to leave you with this somewhat chilling reflection. If your mind is biologically and psychologically designed with these exact blind spots, practically ready to be hacked, have you already been compromised without even knowing it? Keep your eyes open.